What is up? Welcome to the double bonus. Let's turn that music down. There we go. It's the double bonus here in the Northwest Bank Studios, coming to you live Monday, January 26th, 10:36 p.m. Following a classic Big 12 game. Man, I was looking forward to that, and it didn't really live up for a lot of that game because Arizona just looked like the best team in the country, which they are, and absolutely took it to BYU. BYU makes it a game there late. I'm Jake Brend with Cyclone Fanatic, joined by fellow college basketball expert, massive college basketball fan, Jackson Pence. How we doing, my man?
Doing good, man. That was a great game to the end, man. You knew they weren't going to go away.
No. Even though the game felt over the entire time, there was still this feeling that BYU had a shot, just because you know the pedigree between Debansa, between Richie Saunders, Rob Wright. We'll get into all of that. We're also going to talk some Cyclone hoops. This is Cyclone Fanatic, but I feel like games like this right now have a lot to do with Iowa State in different ways. And it mostly comes down to Big 12 tournament races. It comes down to seeding. And that's what I love about the Big 12 is you can turn it on 8 o'clock on a Monday night and you can get a great game like that. We appreciate all the great commenters that are joining us here for the double bonus. Again, this is a YouTube exclusive, so this is not uploaded on the podcast feeds. You can't find it on Twitter. You can't find it on Facebook. We're going to be doing this every week until we get to March Madness. I think we launched it New Year's Eve or something like that, and we kind of fell off a little bit. You know, life happens with the transfer portal, but we are here and can't wait to do this with you, Pence. So I suppose we should probably just start with the ending. We'll get into how Arizona looked and I guess why they looked so good to get there. But I mean, this game was over. It was a 15-point game and BYU storms back. A crazy flagrant foul, just a crazy sequence where BYU scores. They cut it to, I believe it was 6 at that point, hit a couple free throws, get the ball back, score, Arizona turnover, and all of a sudden BYU's got a shot to win it. They go to Rob Wright. What did you think about that decision to not put the ball in the hands of your best player?
Well, one, Arizona had Krivas on the ball, and it's a point where you can't move. He's got to throw it over his head into the backcourt, and you have one of the best players in the country in A.J. Debansa. That's who I would have gone with as the last shot. More likely than not, he's going to get fouled and go to the free throw line. And that's what he tried to do all night long. And credit to Rob Wright, he had a shot to win it, but Jaden Burries was all over the court tonight, made the block there at the end of the game to win it for Arizona. He was nails down the stretch. But I think if you're Rob Wright, you had the full head of steam, but I'm looking for my best player in A.J. Debansa at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean,
it's hard to 10 seconds. It's hard to.
Yeah, I'm guessing there were a lot of different looks on that play, and I don't think that play was probably specifically designed up and drawn up to be just a Rob Wright layup. I'm guessing he liked the matchup, got in the paint, took a chance. If I'm Kevin Young right there, I'm drawing up probably a Debansa pull-up, which I know had not been going in a ton tonight. Like, it wasn't necessarily the most effective shot. But if you get a pull-up with 5 seconds left, you like Debansa's odds. He's the number 1 or number 2 overall pick in the NBA draft. You like his odds to make that, but even more so, you like the odds of Keba Keita being able to crash the boards and put it back up. If you're looking at a player that is the reason BYU got back in this game, it's Keita. And when we're looking at it from an Iowa State perspective, heading into a month, I don't know if there's a player in the conference that scares me more than going up against Keita, considering what he did last year at Hilton Coliseum, the type of player he is, and how his motor somehow gets better in minute 40 than it is in minute 1.
I actually thought there were two. I think Tobe Awaka is very similar. Keba Keita plays the same way as Tobe Awaka. But you're right. Keita had 2 huge rebounds at the end of the game. One of them was an and one, and then the other one was off of the Debansa 3. He got the rebound, put it back in to get it to within 1. But he's a problem, and we saw it last year. 2 times when they played, he was the difference maker, and he gets every offensive rebound that's a 50-50. Like, every time there's a 50-50 offensive rebound, he's getting it, and that's what makes him so special on the offensive end.
DeBanza had an interesting night. He certainly got outshined by Jaden Bradley and, I mean, a fellow freshman in Barry's. You could argue Barry's was the MVP of this game, even though, Bradley's going to get the headlines. Bradley was incredible. He's the closer. But Braden Barry's finishes the game 29 points. Arizona gets 29 and 26 out of their backcourt. I don't really know how they can play much better. Like, that backcourt is playing about as well as anyone in the country, and guard play wins in March. They've maybe got the best backcourt in the country, and that's not even including what they've got down low in Koa Pete, in Tobe Awaka, in Krivas. Like, Arizona truly has an answer for everything, and this is not a game they're going to hang their hat on. Like, it's an incredible win, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Tommy Lloyd's going to be happy with how they let BYU back into this game. But they did so much to build that lead that they were able to hold on at the end, and it's not easy to get up 15 points in Provo.
It's really not, and you talk about DeBanza. Definitely, he scored 24 points tonight, but definitely not his best game by any means. The thing that stands out to me about him tonight: 1 of 8 from 3 and 6 of 24 from the field. That's not usually what he's doing. But I'll give a lot of credit to the Karinchev, the Arizona guard, kid from
great defender.
Great defender. He comes in. I don't know if you heard him, but played with Shabazz Napier at his last stop overseas,
which is crazy.
It is crazy to think of, the Cyclones played him 2014. So that's crazy to think about that. But yeah, Karinchev was really good on DeBanza tonight. Made everything tough, and it doesn't matter. He's 6'7", and there's not a lot of guys in the Big 12 that can guard DeBanza because he's so versatile and going off the bounce or inside the post. Like, he's kind of a mismatch nightmare, and that's what I'm worried about with Iowa State too. Is I don't know who Iowa State's going to have guard him, because you're probably going to have Jefferson. In my opinion, you're probably going to put Jefferson or maybe Milan on him. But again, it's a tough matchup for Iowa State because they don't really have a guy who you can just say, hey, go guard potentially number 1 pick AJ DeBanza.
I still think you go Torre, and
you do.
Yeah, in a weird way, I almost feel better about Iowa State matching up with BYU this year than in years past. And it's not because of talent. Like, BYU is more talented than they've been in the past, but they have, with DeBanza, and it's understandable, he is one of, if not the best isolation scorers in the country. They play a lot more iso ball than in the past. Like, don't get me wrong, they still move the ball. There's still a very fluid offense, but the ball sticks a lot more than in the past, and that's what's given Iowa State problems. Now, I trust that Kevin Young will probably have a game plan in place that night to where they might be swinging the ball a little bit more and skipping over traps, especially if you have DeBanza and he's guarded by a shorter player like Torre. You send the traps, that could be a potential nightmare if DeBanza is making that extra pass. But there's a couple times tonight where I thought he should have made that pass and didn't. Like, the biggest play where I really thought it was over, BYU cuts it to single digits. They've got a transition opportunity. DeBanza gets the ball, not necessarily in the corner, but midway through the wing. And I thought he should have either driven, gotten fouled, or kicked it to Saunders, who's a much better three-point shooter, and he took an ill-advised three. And that seemed like the game at that point. Of course, they're able to still get back in it. There is a little bit with DeBanza still where he is a freshman, and he's all-world talented. But you can tell they're still finding ways to play together. And we'll see how it develops, because I have no doubt that this is a team that'll probably be peaking in March and not at the end of January.
And you kind of saw that last year with them too. They came to Hilton. I mean, they had just won at Arizona. They came into Hilton and won. Like, that team was really good towards the end of last year. They made the Sweet 16. But you're right. I think the thing that worries me about DeBanza is the way he just draws fouls. Like, he's looking
so
to draw a foul every time he gets into the paint, he's looking to draw a foul, and more times than not, they're going to call it. That's the thing that worries me about, when teams guard him is he'll just foul out your best defender, whoever you try to put on him. And you saw it with Cole Pete tonight. He had 4 fouls late in that game and just didn't really want to guard him because he didn't want to pick up his 5th foul.
As much as we talk about BYU, I thought this night was still about Arizona. And barring a really impressive comeback and a near fatal collapse for Arizona and some help from Mr. Tony Padilla along the way, Arizona still outplayed BYU for 38 minutes in this game and absolutely took it to them with physicality from their guards. Bradley and Barry's Fran Fraschilla always does a great job. He did a great job at pointing out how those guards were getting to the chest of the BYU defenders. And that's not even including what they've got down low, like we've already mentioned in Pete and Krivas and Awaka. Arizona is just so physical, and they took it to BYU in a very tough place to play and took the crowd out of it. Yes, everything that happened in the last 2 minutes happened, but my takeaway still from this game is that Arizona might be even better than I thought. And I already thought they're the best team in the country. I already think they're my national championship pick. I think they should be the national championship favorite right now. And they still somehow built upon that tonight.
Yeah, and like you said, they're only going to get better too. Like there's things like in that game late, especially that Lloyd's going to want to clean up. But it goes back to me is every time BYU tried to make a run, they got within 12. Somebody would hit a shot. It'd be Burries or it would be Jaden Bradley. So one thing sticks out to me is they had cut it to 10 with around 3 or 4 minutes left to go, and Bradley shot fakes a 3 in the corner, sidesteps him, hits a 3, and it's like, okay. And I tweeted earlier in the game, it was like, I know BYU's only down 12, but it felt like it was more than that because it didn't feel like BYU had any chance to get a stop because they were so efficient on offense. And even if they missed, it was Awaka or Krivas getting an offensive rebound. So they just have so many weapons and they can play so many different ways too. Like I saw
exactly.
There's some times throughout the season where they can play a rock fight. Like when they play Houston in a couple weeks, it might be a rock fight because that's just how the way they can play. And that's why you can separate the good teams is, they can play different styles of basketball. And that's why I'm so bullish on Iowa State is because I think they can do the same thing.
Absolutely. Like we talk about that game that'll be coming up in early March in Tucson. Arizona will be favored. Arizona will be picked to win that game. And while I'll probably pick Arizona unless something drastic changes between now and then, it still wouldn't be shocking if Iowa State would be able to go in there and do that because, like you said, Iowa State can also win different ways. We saw them go into Mackey Arena and win by shooting the lights out. We've seen them over the years beat Houston in a grinder that ends up in the low 50s. We've seen Iowa State win multiple different ways this year as well. So I don't want to say that there's like a massive gap between Arizona and Iowa State. I think Arizona has even more options if things aren't working. And a lot of that just comes down to front court depth. Like if Buchanan doesn't have it one night, you're going to rely on Dom Plata to get it. Or you're switching to small ball and putting Jefferson at the 5. And Jefferson, as good of a defender as he is, he's not really meant to play small ball 5 defensively for an entire game. Whereas Arizona, if Awaka gets in foul trouble, well, there's Krivas. Or you can go small and have Pete play the 5. So they have so many different options. And then you've got a guard that's playing as well as anyone in the country in Jaden Bradley. And I thought Fraschilla made a great comparison in comparing him to Jamal Shed. And it's a very similar, even just from body type. Stocky, but not short. Like a 6'3", 6'4", well-built guy that it doesn't really matter the level of physicality. He's going to get his own. And it's really impressive to see his control. I know he had the turnover there late. Probably could have been a foul. We're not here to debate the refs or anything like that, but I still trust Jaden Bradley with the ball in his hands at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you look at the box score, he scored 25 points. He was super efficient tonight. 10 of 15 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, and he gets to the free throw line and knocks down his 3 pros at 83%. So, we're going to talk about all Big 12 team coming up midseason. going to be some interesting stuff there, but Arizona is for real, and that game coming up in March with Iowa State is going to be one of the better Big 12 games of the season. And the fun thing about this is there's so many huge games coming up for Iowa State. It's like, you got Kansas coming up on Valentine's Day. That's a huge game. You got Houston right after that. Like, there's so much good basketball going to be played here for Iowa State and around the Big 12 too. So I'm excited. It's only the first night of, I think tonight was the first night of Big Monday.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. We're just getting started, so I'm pumped.
Yep. First Monday after the national championship is Big Monday, and you pull up Bartorvik. Arizona's got the toughest remaining conference strength of schedule because, much like Iowa State, they've had a relatively easy start to Big 12 play. And I'd say they've had almost an identical schedule without a trip to Allen Fieldhouse. Yep. Like up to tonight, Arizona's toughest test had probably been Central Florida on the road. So they've been tested. Don't get me wrong. They won at UConn. They beat Florida. They destroyed Alabama and Auburn and San Diego State. But they hadn't really been completely tested so far in Big 12 play. And they're number one. They're going to get everyone's best shot. And I think tonight was just an example of it doesn't really matter what the other team does. As long as Arizona plays their basketball, they're going to win most of the games they played. And that's what makes their matchup at Houston fascinating, because I think they're better than Houston, but it's Kelvin Sampson at home. It's TJ Altenberger coming out on the road, and you already know how Iowa State's going to approach that game. We know how they approached that game last year. Granted, it was a worse Arizona team, but the point still stands. There's so much good basketball to be played in this conference.
And I'm looking at the key stretch for Arizona is there's 4 key games remaining the rest of the year. It's at Kansas coming up in February, the 9th of February. Then you've got Tech at home, and then you're at Houston, and then home against Kansas. So those are 4 huge games that they have left. And then they have BYU at home too, so you can count 5. But they have a really tough schedule, like you said. But it's for them, it just feels like it just feels like it's another game for them because they're just so versatile, and they can play different ways. Like they can play the way Houston wants to play. They can play Kansas can kind of muck it up, but they can also score a lot of points too. And a lot of this depends on, what does Tech look like in 3 or 4 weeks? They have one of the best starting 5s in college basketball, but they don't have the bench that Arizona does. And that's what makes them different too, is they've got the bench too. And, Del Orso is one of their better players. He didn't do a whole lot tonight. And even Krivas, like that guy had 2 points tonight, 8 rebounds. He's just a difference maker because of size. He's 7'1", 7'2". Like, they have so many options, and their schedule, it's tough. And I don't think they're going to go undefeated, because it's really hard to do that in college basketball, especially when you have to go to Allen Fieldhouse. You got to go to the Fertitta Center. Like, I don't think they're going to go undefeated, but to say that they have a shot to win the Big 12, I think it's very high. That I think they probably will win the Big 12.
Yeah, you look at that stretch. Fog Allen at Houston, Fog Allen, Tech at home, at Houston, KU at home. I'd expect them to go 3-1 in that stretch, but the way they're playing, I'm not going to be stunned if they go 4-0 in that. But I'll say I'd be pretty stunned if they went 2-2 during that. And that includes a trip to Fog Allen Fieldhouse against, the Jayhawks, or what other people call them, that I don't claim right now. They're certainly playing better. And this Saturday, BYU Kansas, good day for Iowa State to have an off Saturday to watch the number 1 versus the number 2 pick in the NBA draft go head to head. So that'll be awesome. Steve Kemp is making the trip out to Tucson just in case it's a can't miss game. I can tell you, Kemp, it's a can't miss game. I'm going out there. C-Dub's going out there. We might go hit up Tombstone, go see where Doc Holliday was buried. It'll be my Huckleberry. I need to get a mic that comes down this way, because it blocks my shirt.
Like the studio.
Check this out.
Yeah, I just ordered mine today.
My new Money Milan shirt. You can go and get that at CycloneFanaticShop.com. Money Milan, it says Jelly Bean there. He helped design it. It looks great. He gets a portion of the proceeds as well. So go and get yourself a Money Milan shirt. Shall we talk some Cyclones for a little bit? This week, it's boring analysis, but it is just go 2-0. Like, there's not really any excuse to do otherwise. Colorado, better than last year. There's no doubt. But you're getting them at Hilton on 5 days rest. Yeah, 5 days rest. You're going to be a 17 to 20 point favorite. You win that game. Same thing at K-State. It's a road game in the Big 12 against a team that's, trust me, they're bad. I don't know if they're 1-7 bad, like their record shows. And you know what Tang's feelings are towards the Iowa State basketball program. They're going to try and give their best shot. We'll see if you can get it. I think this is just a very pivotal week for Iowa State when you talk seeding. Like, you can't drop these games and expect to be a 2 seed come March. Because Nebraska's not losing these games. Illinois, Michigan State, Houston, BYU, those teams have not really lost games like that so far, like Iowa State lost at Cincy. So it's a zero tolerance loss policy this week for the Cyclones.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of mush that into the next 4. Like, if we're really, I'm honestly, and the fans might not like this, but I'm not too worried about the Big 12 regular season title race. It's already hard enough to do that as it is, and the round robin doesn't exist anymore. And obviously, if you could be there at the end and you have a chance to win it, that's awesome. But if you're talking about 1 seed, the 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed conversation, like, you're looking at the next 4, you need to win all 4 of them. You've got Colorado at home at Kansas State on Sunday, and then you got Baylor at home at TCU. You can win those 4 games, and you're going into the gauntlet that is the final 6 games of the season. So there's a lot of opportunity for the Cyclones. It's just one of those deals where it's like, hold serve where you need to win games, and then it comes down to. Then you got all these games at home too. That's another big thing is you get Kansas at home, you get Tech at home, you get Houston at home for Big Monday, and then you have to go to Arizona, BYU. So you get 3 of the 5 toughest games from here on out at home. So that's just another huge thing.
I can't wait. It's always a pleasure when Iowa State plays basketball, especially at Hilton Coliseum. But I am in that mode right now where I'm trying to be careful to not wish away the next month, but I want to get to Valentine's Day. I want to get to that KU game. But like, you lay at the point spreads via KenPom, 18 points Colorado on Thursday, 12 points at K-State, 15 points against Baylor, 6 points on the road at TCU. There's no doubt in my mind that game in Fort Worth is the toughest in that 4-game stretch. But guess what? Nebraska just won at Minnesota. They were 6-point favorites, and they were down double digits in that game and came back and won. Those are the types of teams that you're competing with, and that's not even to mention Gonzaga, Florida, Vanderbilt, Kansas. There are some other wild cards that are going to have a chance to play themselves into the top 8 to 12 seeds in the tournament, and you really have to take care of business in these next 4.
Yeah, we talk about the Floyd standings a lot. I think Iowa State's +2. You know, you're +2 in the Floyd rankings. You have 2 huge road games before you hit the gauntlet. And we talk about Kansas State and their record being 1-5 in conference play. They have a lot of talent. It just hasn't really come together. Like, PJ Haggerty is one of the better players in the conference. The Bashir kid's one of the best 3-point shooters in the conference. They just haven't put it all together. And the Octagon of Doom is a really hard place. Iowa State has not won there a whole lot. They did last year, but they have not won there a whole lot. So that'll be tough on Sunday, even though the records say, Iowa State should win this game by double digits easily. I'm going to be there. It's going to be awesome. Never been to a Big 12 road game, so I'm really
First time.
That. First Big 12 road game. Yeah.
Hopefully you bring the luck, because I've been bad luck traveling, and I'm going to be there. And that's what sucked about not going to Stillwater, was I was hoping that'd be a chance to fight the demons and just get a Big 12 road win under my belt before making the trips out west. So hopefully that happens on Sunday in Manhattan. You mentioned PJ Haggerty, and right now we're going to go over our first team All Big 12 midseason polls. And let me preface this. When the polls come out in March, there's going to be 10 players on the first team. I think that's nonsense. I'm not getting behind that. So here on the double bonus, we are strong advocates for a 5-man first team all conference. Because, Mr. Pence, how many players are on the court at one time for a certain team in a basketball game?
5 that I know.
Last I checked, it was 5. And I think it's still 5. So we're going with We're going with 5 players, and this is your first team all Big 12 here on January 26th. Take me through it.
So I've got Jaden Bradley. Obviously, you guys watched him tonight. Phenomenal player. And honestly, I don't think he's the best guard on that team. I still think it's Burries, but he's just the guy. He's like Taman Lipsey for Arizona. He just does all the winning things.
Burries is definitely your NBA ceiling guy.
Yeah, and I think what Fraschilla said tonight is Bradley will be in the NBA for 10 plus years. He'll be in the Monte Morris role. Like, he will play a backup point guard for 10 plus years in the NBA. He's that good of a player. Then I've got probably one of your best shooters in the conference, and Christian Anderson. And then obviously AJ DeBonsa, my other forward, Joshua Jefferson, and then JT Toppin. But I just want to hit on Anderson. I think he's kind of flying under the radar. You know, he's been good ever since he stepped foot on campus at Texas Tech. But the duo of Christian Anderson, JT Toppin, I don't think there's a better duo in college basketball than those two. They're just so elite offensively. Toppin can get a double-double whenever he wants to. And you saw it against Houston when he's got JoJo Tugler guarding him, one of the best defensive big men in the game. Like, those two are probably the best duo. And then you have AJ DeBonsa, in my opinion, probably your number one pick. We haven't seen a whole lot from Peterson to say otherwise. And then I think you got Joshua Jefferson to round it out. The catalyst or dark horse for player of the year, I think he's right up there with all 5 of these guys.
Yeah, our lists are really close, and I agree with you because I've got Bradley, DeBansa, Jefferson, Toppin all carrying over, and I threw Momcilovic on there. And my 5th spot came down to Momcilovic, it came down to Christian Anderson, and it came down to Kingston Flemings on Houston. Yep. And it was really hard to decide, and I guess good for the voters, good for the league that there are 10 people, because that'll make that decision for those guys easier because they'll all make that top 10 list. Darren Peterson as well, if he's able to finish the year healthy. I just don't think he's played enough yet. Yes. I don't think he's played enough games to crack the top 5. But for me, Bradley, if you pull up just blind eye tests, he's probably not passing the statistical eye test to be top 5. But Arizona's the number 1 team in the country. They have to have a representative on the first team. Bradley's the leader of that team. He's their go-to guy in the clutch. Bradley has to be. And Milo Momcilovic is the best shooter in America. He's not only in the 50-40-90 club, he's in the 50-50-90 club, which is very rare air. He's Iowa State's leading scorer. He's the hardest player to guard right now in the conference. And that's up there with AJ DeBansa, who speaks for itself. He's going to be a first-team All-American. He's going to be a top 2 pick in the NBA draft. Same thing goes for Joshua Jefferson, where it's the do-it-all guy. I don't know how you look at the stats. I don't know how you look at his impact on games and don't have him on that list. And JT Toppin, reigning Big 12 Player of the Year, he should be in the running again this year. He's somehow gotten better at scoring. He's gotten better at rebounding, the 2 things that he does really well. But it's tough to make these lists because it was really hard for me to leave Kingston Flemings off of this list. You watch what he did against Texas Tech and Lubbock on Saturday, 43 points, and he's been their best player as a true freshman on Houston. And that's another team that I think will be knocking on the door to make an Elite 8. But there's just so much talent in this conference. It is impossible to narrow it down to 5 players.
And, you talked about it. It's weird to sit here and say, oh, we don't have a guy from Houston on this list. Like, there's probably 3 guys that I'm thinking of. It's obviously Flemings, and then you've got Milo Zuzan, who's probably one of the most steady point guards in this league, and then you've got
Sharp,
one of the better shooters in Sharp. So there's 3 guys that are going to be right there for that first team. And then, we talked about it a couple weeks ago or a month ago, is I think Houston is still right there. I know they lost to Texas Tech over the weekend, but that's a team that's, it's hard to beat them at what they do. And Texas Tech played really well in that game, and they kind of exposed a little bit of, where that trap kind of hurts Iowa State sometimes is those backside kick passes to, Petty hit 4 or 5 threes, Atwell hit 4 or 5 threes. Like, I think Houston's going to fix it just like Iowa State has, but they're going to be right there till the end.
Yeah, I have no concerns about Houston. Do I think their ceiling is as high as Arizona? Maybe not, but I still think their ceiling can be a national championship. Like, yes, you lose Juwan Roberts, but they were a play away last year, and now they have a guy that they didn't have last year. They didn't have Kingston Flemings. Flemings can absolutely be the difference between an Elite Eight in a Final Four or a Final Four and making the national championship game. It just goes to show how insane the Big 12 is, where they might only get 6 teams in the tournament. I wouldn't bet on it. I would, if I had to bet, if you handed me $100, told me to bet on a single number of how many Big 12 teams are going to make it, I think I'd say 7. You get your top 6 that are all but locks in Arizona, Houston, BYU, Tech, Iowa State, Kansas. And then Central Florida is probably your 7th.
Yep.
Maybe TCU sneaks in there.
That's the other one I'm thinking of, is they have a chance to sneak in there at the end.
But you're looking at 6, maybe one extra team there in the tournament. I'm not going to say the number. I can't handle being clipped by Leah Nelson on TikTok, so I'm just not going to do it. But would it stun you if there were 6 Big 12 teams that make the second weekend? If the brackets line up and if you don't have to have any matchups there in the round of 32 between Big 12 teams, I wouldn't bet on it, but I'd say it's probably more likely that there are 6 Big 12 teams in the second weekend than 3.
I think you talk about that, and I was talking with Nigel and Dylan, the Let 'em Cook guys. I think what helps the Big 12 this year is, in years past, you've obviously had the Kansases of the world, the very, very top of the league. You really haven't had a league where it's been like, those top 6 teams are all right there close to each other. The conference play this year is really going to help the Big 12 when it gets to these crunch time games in the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and moving past, even in the round of 32, and you've got these, 7 seeds they're feisty, or the 8, 9 seeds that are really feisty. I think the Big 12 play this year sets up really well for these top 6 teams, especially. So you get an Iowa State versus, maybe it's a Seton Hall or a St. John's as a 7 seed, as a 2 seed. You're battle tested. You've played these really good teams multiple times. You know what it takes to, move on because you played so many good teams. I think the Big 12 conference schedule has really set up well for these top 6 teams to make a huge run. And it wouldn't shock me to see all 6 of those teams, playing in the second weekend, especially. It wouldn't shock me to see all 6 of them, maybe not how the bracket sets up, but playing for Elite 8 games too. It wouldn't shock me to see all these teams play.
Yeah, there's a clear echelon right now in college basketball where it's the Big 12 and the Big 10. If you're looking at your top 4 seeds, which would be the top 16 teams, there's probably going to be 10 that are coming from those conferences. And then you throw in Duke, you throw in UConn, you throw in Gonzaga, and probably 1 or 2 of those SEC teams, whether it's Florida and Vandy or Florida and Bama or Vandy and someone else. Probably shouldn't be that way. I don't think the SEC is very good this year, but it's probably going to be made up of Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, BYU, Tech, Kansas, Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois, Nebraska. It's a lot coming from 2 leagues right there. And it's kind of crazy to see how things have played out so far. And it'll all play itself out in March Madness. We're just a couple of guys that love talking hoops here for you at 11:10 p.m. on a Monday night. But it's been fun. Thanks to everyone who joined us here for the double bonus. We're just going to be doing this YouTube only once a week. Be sure to subscribe. That's the best way to know about this stuff. We'll, of course, promote it throughout our various podcasts and on the website and all that good stuff. But this might not be the only YouTube exclusive content that we've got for you coming your way in the Northwest Bank Studios. So please, if you're not subscribed yet to Cyclone Fanatic, do it. It's the best place to follow the number 8 ranked Iowa State Cyclones. Head on over to CycloneFanaticShop.com. Be sure to get yourself your Money Milan shirt, Welcome to the Torture Chamber shirt, and show up to Hilton Coliseum loud and proud on Thursday night for Iowa State against Colorado. This has been the double bonus here in the Northwest Bank Studios.